Hey gang, welcome back to the Destination Baby and Kids YouTube channel. This is Gina. I am your host and I am super excited to be here with you today to go over the ultimate 2025 rotational car seat video. So if you've watched this channel before, you've probably seen my other rotational car seat videos. I like to compare all of the ones that you may not find in stores. There are no stores anymore. My store is in the Bay Area in California, destinationbabykids.com. You would be able to see any of these car seats on my website for the most part and purchase most of them on my website. I'm not sure if I've got all of them on there, but the ones that are relevant, I will definitely let you know. Please feel free to hit like. Please feel free to hit follow. Please feel free to subscribe to this channel. We appreciate every viewer, every view. And of course, if it makes sense to go ahead and share this with someone, go ahead and do it. Sharing is caring. All right, let's launch into the best of the best rotational car seat videos 2025. All right, so the seats that I am going to highlight in this video, there's going to be 4 total. We're going to talk about the Cybex Callisto 360. The seat that you do not see here, but I have its base, is going to be for the Evenflo 360 Revolve Extend. The next seat that we're going to be talking about is the Chicco Fit360, so that is also a 360 car seat from Chicco, and then we're gonna have a Nuna REVV here on the end. So the ones that are already set up in the seats, those 2 seats do not have bases. They are all single solitary seats. These 2 seats that are in the center are completely unique because they are seats that are offered with a detachable base. Now, typically with convertible seats, which are seats that face backward and forward, they almost never have a detachable base. There's only one other seat that does. Oh, actually 2 that I can think of. But in terms of rotation, these 2 are special this way. If I'm not mistaken, Chicco is going to be the only brand where you could purchase a secondary base separately. I will double check that and leave that in the written comments for you. It's one part I did not check right now. But I know for Evenflo, you cannot buy bases separately. The base is only going to come with the seat. With Chicco, it will come with the seat, but then you could, I believe, buy an additional base. But again, typically for this style of seat, they are mounted in the car, and then you are going to take your baby in and out for a long amount of time. So let's talk about things that are similar and different. And actually, before we even get into it, I'm going to quickly put these seats on here just to show the viewing audience how that's possible. And one thing that is exciting about seats with bases is that it does make the installation a little clearer, a little easier with what's going on. All of these seats are going to have what is referred to as some type of like locking system to be able to close on your seatbelt or your lower anchor. And what's interesting about the Fit360 from Chicco is if you look here on the base, there is a small green window that's going to be for leveling, and then there's a leveling foot on the bottom of the seat. So you would want to make sure that the base is level prior to installation and that your green bubble is hitting in the specific window. I've gone ahead and done that here with mine. I'm going to go ahead and install this seat. Now, why I point that information out to you, viewer, is because Chicco and Evenflo are going to be the least expensive car seats that we look at in this video, and they have the least amount of features in terms of being able to recline while they're installed. So the more expensive seats are going to have a greater variety of recline available while they're installed, which is one of the reasons why people like them so much. Then we'd go ahead and do our top tether, but that's installed. We'll go ahead and get the Fit360 in there. You just set it in sideways and it locks itself in, which is great. And then it will, with squeezing the handle, go ahead and turn to be backward, or as you can see, full 360 swiveling. And again, it does get a little tricky in this type of scenario where it's immediately adjacent to other seating. So we went ahead and got that guy in there, as you can see. I will go ahead and do the Evenflo. Evenflo is a similar story. You will go ahead and lift up an arm. You'll run your belt through the blue belt path, or of course, if you want to use your lower anchors, you can. You will do a top tether as well here. The biggest difference with Chicco also versus the other seats that we're all looking at is Chicco is a true lock-off. So after I close the bar on that seat, that's going to be the end of it. With this seat, I would need to take my seatbelt, pull it all the way out, let it retract back so that it would be in a locked mode, and then we'd hook up our top tether. But this base doesn't require any angle adjustment. The adjustment's going to come on the seat itself. So we'll see if we can get this one installed, sitting adjacent to a bunch of other seats. Please let this work. And again, it's just a tight fit for the shot. But I think it's just good to point out sometimes that like our dream scenarios of making 3 across work or specific situations sometimes require a little finesse and a little space. Okay, so now we've got those all set up, ready to go. Again, those two have bases. These guys will still do the rotation, and it looks like they're on a base, but that is all attached itself. And the seat will never come off the rotating base. Okay, so now we have all 4 next to each other here. Let's talk about pricing. Rev from Nuna, most expensive, $650, but it will come with quite a bit of value for dollars, so we'll go into that. Callisto, which is this guy here, this is $599, tons of value for dollar. And then the Evenflo and the Chicco that you see here are both $399. The rear-facing weight capacity for these seats, Rev is 4 through 40 pounds, and it has a standing height of 43 inches. Callisto is going to be 4 through 40 pounds and 43 inches of standing height. Chicco is 4 through 40 pounds, 43 inches of standing height. And the one that's different is going to be Evenflo. They're 4 through 50, and they're 17 inches through 48 inches of standing height in a rear-facing mode. So in theory, this one gives you a little bit longer in rear-facing. I would argue that at that age and that physical size, it would probably be very difficult to keep a child in rear-facing mode, but in theory, you do get a longer rear-facing here. I would argue that all of them are good for extended rear-facing. Forward-facing weight and height. So interesting thing to note is that the Evenflo and the Rev say the child has to be 2 years old before you can start using it in forward-facing mode. So even if your state, the law is, let's say you could turn them around at age 1. With these two seats, you're going to want to wait until your kiddo is 2 years old before you can use them in forward-facing mode to be in accordance with the instructions. So 1-year-old for Callisto and 1-year-old for the Chicco. The Evenflo, like I said, and the Rev are going to be 2 years old minimum. And then the 25 to 40 pounds on the Rev, 26.5 to 65 on Callisto, 26.5 to 65 on the Chicco, and then on the Evenflo, it's 22 to 65 pounds. They all hold 49 standing inches with the exception of the Rev. The Rev cuts out at 43 standing inches in both rear and forward facing. So it is a shorter seat. It's a shorter duration of use as well. But I'd also argue that the pieces on it are nicer, it's easier to use, that type of thing. So, I mean, for me, it's my personal favorite of these. But again, I sell the most of it, and I have the strongest relationship with it just because I sell so much of it. All right. Expiration dates, 10 years on all of them with the exception of the Chicco. That's going to be an 8-year expiration date. Warranty. So warranty for the Rev is 2 years. The Chicco is 1 year limited. The Callisto is 2 years. And then Evenflo has what they will say is a limited lifetime warranty, meaning that if something goes wrong, they're going to make a determination if they will deal with it or not. My suspicion is that they probably will, but to be fair, most of these brands with car seats, if something is truly wrong and you email the brand, 9 times out of 10, they are going to fully take care of you because car seats are very high liability for these companies to make. They'd rather make sure everything is perfect than have something out there that's not perfect. Other things to keep in mind, harness height. So that's going from the bottom of the seat and raising the harness up to its tallest height. So how much butt to shoulder space do we get with each one of these seats? The Rev is the shortest. It's a 15-inch seated torso height. The harness height on the Callisto, which is this guy here, which is again backward, forward, and booster. So again, anytime a seat will also incorporate booster, they generally have a taller torso harness height, and the harness height on Callisto is going to be 19.75 inches to 20 inches. The Evenflo, which is this guy here, which is again backward, forward, and booster, that is also a 20-inch seated torso height, so that's great. And Chicco is 7 to 18 inches, so it's also pretty good. Again, the shortest one for sure is the Rev. Buckle position, so that's the lower buckle for the bottom part here. Buckle positions on Rev, there's 2 of them, 4 inches or 6 inches. Buckle positioning on Callisto is 2 positions, 5 inches or 6.5 inches. Chicco, there's 2 positions, which is 5 inches or 7 inches. And then Evenflo is 3 position buckle, 3.5, 5 inches, and 6.5 inches. Now keep in mind when you have infant pillows in, that sort of makes a third spot for even smaller kids because all of these can be used from newborns. Very few people use these seats from newborns, but if you wanted to, they all have infant pillows. And I'm gonna come up to the camera and show you those because again, that is where some of that price difference is super pronounced, meaning that Evenflo at the $399 going backward, forward booster is definitely the cheapest. The material feels the cheapest. The pillows are not as nice compared to the other brands. You know, the material is certainly nice enough, but it's, for instance, not flame retardant free. They only have one option here for flame retardant free, and it's in an emerald green color, and emerald is really pushing it. I wouldn't even say it's emerald. It's more of like an aquamarine. It's more blue than green, in my opinion. But that's odd to me. Like, why not make an attractive color or a normal color in the flame retardant free? Every other seat that you're looking at here is utilizing flame retardant free fabrics. So Chicco, it's called ClearTex. Nuna always has been flame retardant free. They're just like, whatever, of course we are. And then Cybex is utilizing a flame retardant free, but also super breathable material on the Cybex. And the Cybex has breathability in the seat frame itself. So does the Nuna, so does the Chicco. The Evenflo is really the only one that doesn't have perforation on the plastic for more airflow, for a little bit more of like a comfortable seat in terms of not being hot. But again, at its price point and everything that it's doing, that isn't surprising that it wouldn't have those features like the other ones do, because the other seats are typically more expensive. Now I understand the Chicco is the same price, but it holds just backward to 40 and then forward to 65. There is no booster seat here. There is no booster seat on Rev. These two are the only options that will do backward, forward, and booster. So Callisto and Evenflo. Okay, so the overall, the other thing I will circle back to is buckle width. Because both the Evenflo and Callisto, Evenflo in particular gets a lot of criticism about the width of the buckle. It is 4.25 inches wide when everything is snapped together on the lower buckle here, so sometimes it can dig into kiddos' thighs. Now my suspicion is that some people aren't bright enough to understand that there are multiple positions, so you do need to move it out as the kiddo gets bigger. But both of these have a wider buckle set at 4.25 inches, whereas these guys here are only 3.8 inches wide. So if you're looking for a narrower buckle, both of these guys are going to hit that, whereas your Cybex and your Evenflo have that wider buckle. So something to be aware of there. Okay, overall width, Rev is 18.5 wide, Callisto is 19.5 wide, Chicco is 18.5 wide, and Evenflo is about 20 inches wide. Our interior width, the Rev is 10 inches wide, Callisto is 11.5 inches wide on the inside, the Chicco is 11 inches wide on the inside, and the Evenflo is 12. So of course these two are going to be slightly wider on the inside, they're slightly wider on the exterior, but because they also are booster seats holding bigger bodied kids, they're going to need to have a little bit more space on the inside. These two guys are narrower on the inside, but certainly manageable, up to, in Chicco for sure, to age 6, and then for the Nuna, I'd say 3 or 4 easily. Maybe even some small 5-year-olds. Okay, head positions. 10 on Chicco, or excuse me, 10 on the Rev, 12 on Callisto, 15 on the Chicco that I counted, and 14 on Evenflo. Now again, it's about the seated torso height anyway, so this is just the amount of stops we can take on that journey, but if you were curious, those are the amounts that we were able to see. Cup holders, they all come with 2 cup holders. Most of them are dishwasher safe for the top rack. The rear-facing latch capacity on all of the seats is 30 pounds with the exception of the Rev. The Rev is 40 pounds in both directions, and that's very cool about the Rev because the Rev tops out at 40 pounds for the top maximum weight anyway. So it's like, if you wanted to utilize lower anchors, this seat is awesome because you can set it up with lower anchors and never have to worry about seatbelt. With the other 3 seats, I would definitely encourage a seatbelt installation. And remember, with the Chicco, we don't have to do an additional lock off. That piece on the base is a true lock off. With the Cybex and with the Evenflo, we would want to lock off the seatbelt after that seatbelt installation. Forward-facing latch capacity on all of them is 35 pounds, with the exception again of the Rev, which is going to be 40 in both directions. Okay, so let's talk about one other dimension that someone had asked me about the other day, which I thought was interesting, was top of the harness to the top of the headrest, because their kiddos getting quite long through the neck and the upper torso. That's something I had never thought about before, so I wanted to just measure to see. The interesting thing is, although the Rev is theoretically the smallest of the seats that we're looking at, it is 11.25 inches from the top of the shoulder harness to the top of the headrest. So you do get a nice long body extension here. On the other seats, it was 10.25 for the Callisto and the Evenflo, which makes sense, but also because it's a booster, that's a little disappointing. I would have hoped for a longer length there, just to get an accommodation for a longer body. And then on Chicco, it's gonna be 10.5. So Chicco's interesting, not a booster, longer than the 2 seats that can become booster. So definitely very interesting to think about that there. So they all have, the reason why I'm focusing on these seats, all of these seats have what I would describe as excellent ability to do the rotation one-handed with weight in the seat. And then all of the seats are able to be utilized one-handed for a lot of that type of manipulation. So if a turn is difficult on a seat, I generally won't recommend it for rotation. So that would kill like the safety first, that would kill the Maxi Cozy. There's just some rotational seats that are so hard to get to rotate that it's frustrating. The old rotational Cybex, the Sirona, I hated that seat, but I'm actually pretty fond of the Callisto. I don't have this one installed fully all the way, but what I am gonna do is take out this padding, because we talked about that a little bit earlier in the video, and I just wanna make everybody aware. With these seats, if you were going to use for newborn, the padding set on Cybex is gorgeous. It has a very firm piece on the inside that comes out after from 4 to 11 pounds. Then you can use the body piece without that part from 4 to 20 pounds and the head piece on it to 20 pounds. Evenflo has the saddest infant pillow. So it even says in the book that if you have a really small baby, you want to fold these pieces under to like shove their body more upright to get the correct incline position for a new baby. So that's something to be aware of as well. Does this stuff matter to you? If it were to matter to you, that would be something that we would want to highlight. So the other thing too is that Nuna comes with, in my opinion, the nicest set of infant padding and pillows, all able to come apart. It is labeled very clearly when you stop using the pieces, like so after 11 pounds. And the thing that's really nice about this is you get a whole additional set of this when you purchase the Nuna. So if they get sick and you need to clean it, you can put one set in the wash and then have the other set ready to go, which we definitely love. And surprisingly, the Chicco one is very intense too. I mean, it's not surprising, but just at the $399 price point, this infant piece is crazy. And then the other thing is, if I unzip this here, you see they have the bike helmet foam as the piece on the interior there. So they all are gonna have the bike helmet foam on the inside of the seats. So from a safety standpoint, excellent. And then the other thing that is nice about all of these seats is, as you can see, they all have the rotation toward the door. So you're gonna be able to take the kiddo in and out of the seat, no problem. And all of these seats will have what is called an anti-rebound plate. So they all have anti-rebound feature. And if you've seen my safety video, my advanced safety feature car seat video, that is something I think is very important, especially when we ask kiddos to do extended rear facing. We want to make sure the seat doesn't slide up and hit anybody. So nice feature there. I'm just installing this really quickly. But something I want to touch on all of these seats, because this is a question I get very frequently. With rotational car seats, you are going to have to be okay with a mild amount of rattling of the seat while it's sitting on the base. So This will generally not be a problem when there is weight in any of these seats, but as you can see, even with this installed, the seat has a little bit of movement. I'm gonna go ahead and show off the Chicco. Also has that little bit of movement. We'll go to the Evenflo. Also has a little bit of movement. Let's look at Callisto. Little bit of movement. So I just want to point out, this is true of all of these. It's not like there's going to be one seat that's going to be so much better and not have that type of movement. The only time that that does not exist on any of the seats that I've ever seen is on the Baby Jogger Turn to Go, but that is not a 360 seat and nobody buys that seat. It's a nice little seat, but just something to be aware of there. As you can see on the Callisto, one other feature we would want to show off is that it does have the adjustable canopy. There's no other seat that currently has that on the market, so that's a pretty cool feature, especially if you have like a panoramic roof. So something to be aware of there. Seat is recline. That's the last thing we wanted to talk about. So recline on these seats, the Chicco doesn't really have any in forward or rear. You set the base and that's going to be the main idea there. Evenflo has 2-position recline for newborn and then 3-position recline for 20 to 40 pounds. Technically, what I'd say is that you get 2 for the smaller kiddo and then 3 for slightly larger. In a forward facing, you get no recline. For the Rev, you're going to get 5-position rear facing recline and 5-position forward facing recline, all adjustable while the seat is installed. And that's going to be the same story with Callisto. So with Callisto, it is, I believe, 2-position recline for rear facing for a super new baby. Older kiddo, I think it's 2 more positions. And then forward facing, there's 3-position for recline as well as 2 for booster. So you do get a lot of bang for your buck with the Cybex if you want to go the distance and do the rear facing, forward facing, and booster. And you want a slightly nicer material set and the flame retardant free that you don't get with the other brands. I'm not sure where that beeping's come from. That's probably signaling it's time to end the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have questions about the rotational car seats at all, please feel free to leave them below. And again, please feel free to hit like or subscribe. I'm happy to answer any of the questions that I can for you as rapidly as I can. Thank you so much for watching, and you guys enjoy the rest of your day.